Morning everyone, my name's Steve and I'm really pleased to be supporting Craig on his classic car day today for Sunnyside Meet, and especially pleased as he's decided to support men's mental health, which is something that's very close to mine and my wife Andrea's hearts. So good luck with that, Craig, and we'll support whatever we can in your efforts there. So he's asked me to do a little film about our small collection of cars. So without further ado, I'll give you a quick tour of what's in our shed. So there's a Mercedes W123 Coupe. We'll come back to that in a minute. There is, of course, the pride of the collection, really, the Aston Martin DBS V8. We'll come back to that in a minute as well. There is a very nice little Fiat Cinquecento Sporting. Fairly random, but again, I'll come back to that in a minute. A Triumph Thruxton. In fact, two Triumph Thruxtons. That's mine, and Andrea's is lurking over there in the background underneath the covers. And the amazing Citroen SM. So we'll start with that. So 1972 Citroen SM. Very quirky car, the pride of Citroen and the pride of France, really, when it was built. Citroen were regarded as the technological leaders in many aspects of automotive engineering back in the, well, really from the 50s with the DS, and even before that with the Citroen Avant. The SM was the culmination of all their technology and their expertise, and it was to show the world what they could do. To make it a bit more special, they put a Maserati engine in it. They bought Maserati when Maserati was going out of business, and one of the reasons they bought it was so they could have a very nice engine for their SM. So this particular car was actually for the Swedish market. We saw it and fell in love with it because of the lovely gold colour. It's all very dusty in here at the moment because we're in lockdown, so you'll have to excuse the dust. But let's just give you a quick tour of the car for those that don't know it. Very advanced for its time. So swiveling headlights when you turn a corner. Hydro pneumatic suspension. So this is in its sleeping mode. So as you can see, it's sat down at the back, and perhaps in a minute I'll start it up and you can see it come up on its suspension. So very advanced hydro pneumatic suspension. Lovely rear glass, I think. I really like the rear glass of that hatchback design. Twin pipes at the back. Nothing too fancy, it doesn't say Maserati, it just says electronic injection. It's got fairly subtle badging. I love the design of it. I love the quirkiness of it. The interior is equally interesting, and I'll show you that in a minute. So that's a very quick introduction to the SM. Let's move on to the Fiat Cinquecento Sporting. These used to be very common on our roads back in the mid-90s. They've all disappeared, really, and I had one back in the 90s and remembered what fun they were and how clever they were. They were very well packaged, a wheel at each corner, loads of room inside. Great fun to drive, really whizzy 1.1 litre engine called the Fire engine. It was the first fully automated robotic assembly engine for Fiat, and it revs like crazy. It goes beautifully. Lots of people like to put Punto engines in, or 1.4 or 1.6. You don't need to. It's got loads of power for what you want, really. It'll do 90 miles an hour, and it is what it is. It's just a fun car for the summer. So this is a one owner. When I bought it, it had one owner. It had done 35,000 miles, so it's a little bit time warped, this one. It's in fantastic condition, and we'll have a little look inside. Okay, interior for the Fiat Cinquecento Sporting, and it is quite sporting with lovely Recaro style seats with original red seat belts, and I've added a steering wheel that I find a lot more comfortable. It had a leather wheel originally, which was a bit flat. The dish on this just makes it a lot easier to drive. 5-speed manual, and lots of yellow. So the Aston, this has been to one of the Sunnyside Meet events, or probably more than one. This is a very rare car. 1971 Aston Martin DBS V8. They made around 400 DBS V8s. They only made around 90 to 100 in manual, and this is a manual, matching numbers manual car, so very much the kind of the most sought after of this car. And a lot of people like it because it has very clean lines. It was William Towns who designed it, and he really kept the design of it very clean and sharp. So let's come around to the front. A lot of people love the fact that he went for this 4 headlamp design, which they then dropped after this model. And after David Brown sold the company, this just became the AM V8. And as you all know, probably, it started to get flared arches and magnolia leather, lots of walnut, and all got a bit poncy really. This is a proper David Brown car, fly-off handbrake, manual transmission, no driver aids, not many fripperies on this thing. It is a driver's car. In its day, it was the fastest production car in the world, with a 0 to 60 time of 5.9 seconds and a top speed of 161 miles an hour. It is an absolute brute of a car, and we'll have a little look at the engine and the interior in a minute as well. Having mentioned production numbers on that, I'll just come back to the Citroën. So they made about 12,000 SMs, and it was very successful, really, in its day, given that it was a very expensive car. So in terms of the production numbers, it was in production, I think, for the best part of 5 or 6 years. This Swedish model, there's only 24 that were made for Sweden. Let's go out and have a quick look at the Merc. So the Merc is a beautiful car. It's the W123 series Mercedes from 1981, the pillarless coupe. This is, or was at the time, really the pinnacle of Mercedes engineering. This car was made at a time when making the best was what was important to them. It wasn't about the money. And many people regard the W123 as the ultimate Mercedes in terms of build quality and durability. It's perhaps not a particularly sexy car. My wife's not particularly in love with it. But from a design point of view, clean lines, and that pillarless 2-door coupe design, for me, just makes it very stylish and so well made. All the design features, all of the quality of the metal, the quality of everything in this car is outstanding. So we'll have a quick look under the bonnet and in the interior of that as well. So that's a 1981, and they are also quite rare now. They very hard to find, the coupes. That was quite a find to get one in very original condition. That one's done about 60,000 miles. It's never been restored, and it's just absolutely like a new car to drive. Quick look at the Mercedes interior. First of all, let's give you a look at that pillarless design. So you can see there with the windows down, you get that lovely open aperture on the side. Fairly standard Mercedes interior. This one's an automatic transmission, MB Tex cloth interior, which I prefer to leather. It's really nice in all weathers. I've changed the steering wheel on this because the originals are a bit large. Beautiful engine, 2.8 litre, straight 6, twin cam, fuel injected. Very nice for pressing on. This is not a nippy car, but this is a very nice Autobahn cruiser, yeah, capable of 120 miles an hour or whatever, in those countries that it's allowed. So let's have a quick look at the interiors now. So this is the SM, beautiful bucket shape reclining seats, and it's a 2+2, so lovely seats in the back as well. I love the design inside this car. Manual gearbox. They did do some automatic versions for the USA, but who wants one of them? So it's lovely to drive with a manual box. This one's got a nice period radio in it now. Self-centering steering, which was very advanced in its day. So as soon as you let go of the wheel, if you're turning a corner, it will spin back to center. It means you can actually drive very quickly and very nimbly around town or out on the country roads. So it's quite an interesting thing to drive. Quick look under the bonnet. So 2.7 litre V6, very busy engine bay. These are the hydro pneumatic suspension spheres. Lots going on down here, air conditioning. And there's that all important Maserati logo there on the plenum. So this is a fuel injected car. Prior to this, they made carburettor versions, which a lot of people prefer, but this is quicker and it's very, very nice to drive. So here we've got the Aston interior, chalk and cheese really with the Citroen. This is proper old school British, black leather, chrome dials, fine array of Smith's dials there. Fly off handbrake, as I mentioned, confuses the MOT boys. 5-speed manual ZF gearbox called the dogleg gearbox because its first is down and left, opposite to the usual configuration. Lovely comfy interior. So this is all original. The interior has not been restored, and the paintwork on this car is the original colour called oyster shell, and they only made 3 in this colour, so it's very, very rare indeed. Let's have a look at the engine. So here is the real heart of the car for an Aston Martin, in my opinion. So this is designed, V8, designed in-house at Aston Martin. In fact, it's the last engine they ever really designed in-house, because after this V8, they went to Ford, and of course now they're with Mercedes. So this is the last proper Aston engine. It has the Bosch mechanical fuel injection system, which was also used on some Mercedes of the era and Porsche. Very effective, unless you're worried about fuel consumption. Very fast, very powerful with that injection system, and very rare because a lot of people removed the injection system because they didn't know how to set it up, they didn't know how to fix it, so they put carbs on. Big mistake, because this is much quicker, and you just need to know what you're doing with it. But it's actually relatively straightforward. It's probably almost World War II technology. So what else can I tell you about what's going on in here? It's fairly basic. There's no aircon. Most of the room is taken up with engine. And there it is. Let's start it up. So here's a little treat for the end. This is the Citroen SM. We'll just give it a start and watch it do its thing. Isn't that cool?